What's going on, everyone? It's LFC Transfer Room here. And for those of you that are still awake, it was Liverpool 0, Man United 0 in a game of attack versus defence where we didn't seem to have a clean shot on target for 90 plus minutes, but we had over 25 shots, I think it was. It's a frustrating one, Ant, wasn't it?
It was. There wasn't a moment in the match where I thought, "Oh, we're gonna score here." I don't know what it was. I think it's been coming though because for our most recent matches, I've never really felt like we've got a comfortable grip on the game. Liverpool are going to win this, even against Crystal Palace, for example. So I was confident coming in. I didn't expect to win 7-0 like last season, but I did expect a 2 or 3-0 win, and obviously I was proven wrong by the Liverpool players today.
Yeah. Dan, what do you think? Is this just one of those games, and
I mean, it reminds me a lot of the Luton Town game where I feel like at times like we just a bit wasteful, lack a bit of ruthlessness, lack a bit of sharpness in that game. And I mean, in the Luton Town game, that last minute winner by Diaz. I mean, I just think it's a combination of different things. I think we really missed McAllister, but I think we really missed Robertson. I think we haven't really realized how much we've missed having a left fullback that can overlap so much. Except now after about a month where teams have started to adjust to what Liverpool do. And now a lot of teams are man marking Szoboszlai a lot more, like today with Amrabat. It's just one of those where it's a December game, it's a draw against United. Even though it is at home and United are not that good, it's not really the worst result in the world. I mean, we're, 2 points off Arsenal or 1 point off Arsenal right now? Right now, James? Oh, we're 1 point?
I'm not that prepped.
If we play Arsenal next week, and if we beat them by hook or by crook, it's
we're
1
2
point.
points clear. So yeah, I think we're 1 point behind.
Yeah, so if we beat them next week, then that's all that matters, and we've made up for the draw against United. I mean, it's frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, considering the fact that Liverpool haven't, like I think Anthony mentioned, haven't played that well against Fulham and Palace. Even though I actually think we did play okay against Fulham, we just didn't control the game. It's one of those. I mean, I've said yesterday with Steve, I'm like, would you take a draw, 0-0 draw? If this was Alex Ferguson's Liverpool, he would say like 0-0 draw, fine, we move on, we play Arsenal, we beat them.
Now, Anthony, obviously anyone watching the stream and stuff, they're not part of our chat. If you were to look on our stream chat at the moment, I mean, you would think that we just lost 7-0 ourselves, wouldn't you? To get rid of all the strikers, change everything, nobody's good enough, spend 100 million on this, that's the only solution and stuff. But at the start of the weekend, we were still top of the league. And now we're 1 point behind, and we're still going through a transition where an entire midfield has come into this club. Surely it's good news.
The thing is, though, it's these results. You've just got to win them, and I think they come back to bite us at the end of the season, which is just a big shame because look at the season we won the Premier League, battered Manchester United at Anfield. Not in terms of the scoreline, but complete domination. We looked like we're going to score every 5 minutes, and won the match with it 2-0. I think Salah scored at the end, but I'm just not getting that. Every time I watch Liverpool, like I said before, I'm just not seeing a really good performance. I'm not seeing a title-winning side, and it's creeping up. Honestly, we had to rely on Harvey Elliott's brilliance to get 3 points against Palace. We had to rely on individual just brilliant goals against Fulham to beat those guys. Conceded 3 at Anfield against them. So I think recently we've just been really poor, and I disagree. I've not really read the chat. I'm not gonna lie. I've got it on mute just because there's about 100 messages every 5 seconds. I'm like, just relax. But I don't know, man. It's just I think there's a few problems. The biggest one for me when I'm watching these matches, I think the front three aren't flowing at all. Whilst the midfield, there's a bit of lack of control, I guess you could say, in there. They still need time to adjust because it's a new midfield three, like you pointed out as well. But the front three have been together for over a year now, and Nunes in particular. Oh my goodness, I've run out of words to describe that guy. Everyone was saying at the end of last season, give him another chance. He was poor in his first season for Benfica. He'll be good the next season. He's been rubbish. He's been absolutely rubbish. He scored three. He scored 2 good goals against Newcastle. Since then, he's got 10 matches without a goal now. Darwin Núñez. I wouldn't have seen a difference if we put Benteke up front today instead of Darwin Núñez. Honestly, he's rubbish, and he's been rubbish. Like I said, been rubbish for the past few matches as well. But at least he causes chaos, though. That's the most important thing when you spend 75 million. At least he could give a shoulder barge to Johnny Evans and get a yellow card. That's the most important thing when spending 75 million on a striker.
So patience wearing thin there.
Bit harsh on Darwin there. I mean, I get what Anthony's saying though. I mean, I feel like, you know, like we all, if Darwin just knocks in like, you know, the open goal against Luton, or, you know, scores like one of the goals where it was clear on, I think there would may not be less criticism, but maybe less like, you know, frustration with him. I think he does like a lot of things very well. Like he links play, he can drop, he can do a lot of things. He's kind of been Firmino'd a bit to some degree, where I think that, you know, we're getting to a point where he's not scoring regularly, but he's doing a lot of like the dirty work and the dog work they want him to do. But I think the reason he hasn't been scoring is the reason why a lot of our forwards have been scoring. There hasn't been a lot of creativity from front to back. I mean, the Fulham game, none of our forwards scored. Against Palace, none of our forwards scored. So I think it's a more general thing with the fact that, you know, Salah, Diaz, Gakpo, Jota's now had that knock, but I think he might be back for Arsenal. Like, we just haven't been able to get our forwards in the game to score. And I think that's more of an issue with just, again, I think we're just missing personnel. There might be an issue with the shape transitioning where Trent needs to come to midfield more, or Gomez is playing right back more, or I honestly just think we just miss Andy Robertson. I'm not saying that's the whole reason, but I think we lack a little bit of dynamism down the left because we just don't have a pacey fullback there right now. We have a Costas Tsimikas, who I like as a backup, but you know, it's just kind of where I'm at right now. I think it's really hard to judge individuals on a whole scale. I think it's okay to criticize them for these past performances. But, you know, like I said, I think it should be like we'll point off the top of the league. We beat Arsenal by hook or by crook. We're top of the league going into – is the next game after that Boxing Day? The Boxing Day game? Which I don't even know who we play. Yeah, so you know, that's all we can ask for.
Dan, you joined us. T'other Dan. That Dan. Dan number 2. Obviously, we're talking about Darwin. We're talking a little bit about the Costas and a bit of unbalance and stuff like that. I mean, overall, the United game for you, what's your main takeaways from it? What's your main frustrations? What are the main things that actually, you know, people need to not just throw the baby out with the bathwater, or is this, as you would see on our group chat, the end of the fecking world?
Yeah, I mean, Bob Paisley, he said it best, didn't he? Look at us at the top of the league with all these problems. I mean, we're a point behind Arsenal, Liverpool 2.0, and this is the rebuild. A lot of people's expectations of Liverpool this season, not one of them being mine, was get top 4, do well in a cup. And we're ahead of that situation. And as much as I'd love to have gone into this game and sat there and said, right, we're going to do them 4-5, 6-0, which people have been bandying about, which is just insane. It's madness. That's one occasion in a lifetime. Klopp said that. We will only probably ever beat them that scoreline, ever, once. What's happened for me has been an accumulation of what we've been playing like for the last couple of matches, like Dan's just mentioned quite rightly, is that we're not scoring up front. Our front three are not scoring any goals. Salah's 200th goal. I mean, come on. I've seen on goals given with less of a deflection than that one. And it is really, it's concerning. And that can only come from the way that we're playing. I'm a little bit concerned about the way that we're playing with Szoboszlai. I like Szoboszlai. I think he's a brilliant footballer. But however we're bringing Szoboszlai into the game at the moment, when he's underlapping on Salah, as opposed to what we were doing when Gomez came in against Palace, which was overlapping, we looked so much better when we had a player going round the right of him rather than coming in front of him. A number of times I saw that Szoboszlai's pass was either overcut, undercut. Salah's passing was horrendous. The touches from the two of them in that first half was scandalous, to be totally honest with you. And it's not the end of the world. I think that my major take is it's not the end of the world. We didn't lose. We didn't get embarrassed, which was my biggest concern. What I need to see from us going forward is I watched Arsenal, And the way that they played against Brighton today frightened me, because they were totally dominant with the football. They pressed from the front. They were capable of doing an awful lot of things, which, even though they only scored the 2 goals, the second goal was a nice little breakaway when Brighton were trying to get a draw goal. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is I'm really worried that unless we find a way of not looking for miracle balls, which is what we were going for in the second half, we need to try and find a way of linking the play between midfield and attack and get our attackers back in positions where they can score goals. Because at the moment, I didn't see one. We had 35 shots, 8 on target, and not one of them really gave an Arne any trouble. And that's really worrying for me.
And if you get it on target, as you know, as Galatasaray know, there's a chance he just dives out of the way of the thing. So, Helios was right. The more nuance. Anthony, read the stats. LFC 34 shots, 8 on target. Expected goals of 2.35. So we should have had at least 2 goals.
Yeah,
I think I'm kind of with Anthony a little bit on the Nunes. I think needs some time out of the side. I think him and Salah try to run into the same space and try to play in the same space, that right-hand side of the box. And I think you'd rather have Salah there than you would Nunes. I think they're playing Gakpo in this sort of midfield, right wing, wherever he can. And actually, he's the most natural Firmino-type player we've got. And if he was to drop back and create space for Diaz, Jota, and Salah, we'd be scoring a lot more goals, in my opinion, because then Szoboszlai can pick and choose. One of the other things that I noticed, Anthony, is when they brought Joe Gomez on and someone actually ran outside Salah because Trent wasn't making those runs, suddenly we're a completely different prospect of danger because someone had to think about the outside of Salah, and Salah wasn't the widest player. He's not going to score in between the box and the byline. And for some reason, that's where he's spending a lot of the game today, just unable to have an impact on the game.
Exactly. The thing is, though, Salah's goal contributions, I think he's got probably the most in the league this season or something around that. But even in these matches, like you mentioned against Crystal Palace, he didn't play. He's not played well in the past few matches, but he's still kind of contributing. I guess scored against Palace, got an assist as well. But I just don't know. He's just not the same Mo Salah from, I guess, the beginning of the season. I think we're using him as more, he can try and run back and help defend with Trent, and I think he's a bit too involved with certain aspects of the game where he just doesn't. We're not utilising him properly. And can we say Nunes is a fault of that? But I'm not sure. But like you pointed out, I thought Gomez, when he came on, that system's actually working well, where we're putting Trent in the middle and Gomez at right back. I was completely against it. I thought Trent's the best right back in the world, so just keep him there. There's no need to move him on. But like Dan mentioned earlier as well with the Arsenal match, the biggest factor I thought was Declan Rice. I thought he was unbelievable today. That's probably the best defensive midfield performance I've seen from him this season. He's incredible. And you look at the difference. I saw a lot of people hyping up Endo's performance. I thought it's just a bit basic. It's just a generic 5 or 6 out of 10 performance. Didn't do anything amazing, which Declan Rice is performing and something that we've not really had this season. I guess you put McAllister in that position, but he's just not a defensive midfielder, or at least a lone defensive midfielder. But I don't know, man. What is the problem? Because the front three just look completely disjointed. There's no flowing of the football. They're not connected. They're not like reading each other's minds like we used to see with obviously Mane, Salah, Firmino. Albeit that's like one of the best front threes in history. You're not really going to replicate that very quickly. But you expect better. You expect way better because the defense was unbelievable today. The defense has been incredible, but the front three is just so disjointed at the moment. No matter who we play, I'm not confident that they're going to score a goal, or I'm not confident that they're going to do a really good bit of link-up play because they all look like they're just getting in each other's way at the moment.
I think we really Alistair. Yeah. Sorry, mate. Dan, you carry on. Go on.
Oh, yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think that Dan mentioned this and Anthony mentioned as well. I think that this jointedness is just down to the fact they haven't played a lot of games together. You know, if you really think about like the minutes on the pitch this midfield have played, like Arsenal, that team has mostly played together, except they just plugged in Rice and Havertz. So you have 9 outfield players that have mostly played, maybe David Raya. So 8 outfield players that mostly played together. You're plugging 3 people in. This Liverpool team right now, I mean, Diaz was out injured a lot last year and he came in, so he hasn't really had like a full season to build those relationships. Salah and Nunez have a relationship, but again, that's still relatively new. It's only in its second year. And Mane's second year, or his first year with Salah, but his second year with Liverpool was a very up and down year. We only had 10 league goals. So again, like this is a situation where they just need to build relationships. That midfield three, so Szoboszlai, this is his 20th game for Liverpool. Mortara Endo's like his 10th or 11th or 12th. I don't know where to start. Gravenberch, I mean, he didn't even play at all last year for Bayern, so he's having to catch up on a year of not playing. Costas hasn't played a lot of games. And then so you have a situation where almost half your team just doesn't have a relationship with each other. So it is a bit disjointed at times. So I think that's part of this disjointedness. But then you can see the quality of the players because it's disjointed, but there's still the effort. There's still a lot of technical quality. And even if they mess up like 9 times out of 10, there's that one time they do get something right. But if you don't score, why does it matter? But I do think we miss McAllister. And I know I keep harping on Andy Robertson, but we miss those two players because they have kind of been the ones that have played the most within this setup. That first good, 10 games of the year, I think for the most part, we got the most amount of points. They were a crucial part of that setup, even when we had Van Dijk out or we had, who else got suspended? Jones was suspended for a bit, and when McAllister got sent off against Bournemouth. So, like I said, I don't think there's really not much need to panic. It's just more the fact that it's going to be grindy. It's going to suck probably for the next couple of matches. But, if you get the win, that's all that matters. Like, Arsenal's going to be the more interesting game because I think if we can win that game, I think it puts us in a better position. But even if we draw against Arsenal, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world.
I think my biggest frustration when I think about it is Diaz cuts in about midway into the opponent's half and he runs into the middle of the pitch sideways. Núñez always tries to pass to Salah, but he tries to pass to Salah when he's stood in where Salah operates. So Salah can't do what Salah naturally would do without thinking because Núñez is passing to him in that exact position. So then Salah's got to do something different. And then they run on top of each other and stuff like that. So Salah pushes himself wider and can't actually impact the game. So I think you're all right. I think there's a level of disjointedness in this front three. And I think a player like Diego Jota, who hopefully will be back for Arsenal, who comes on for Diaz and then just doesn't really play in a system as much, just does nothing in a game, turns up at the right moment in the right place and scores a goal and everyone's happy. And then Drew will send a message saying, is he a 7 out of 10 today? And yes, he's always a 7 out of 10 because he does nothing apart from score goals. But that's kind of what we're lacking. I'm going to struggle with this Dan and Dan thing. Not American Dan. What do you think? How do you solve that? Because obviously Szoboszlai's got to come in, Gravenberch's got to take some of that space as well, and it's just all seems a bit mishmash, and they're trying to find where they run and where the automatic passes are.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about. I mean, for me, the most frustrating of the performers actually today, and quite honestly said that nothing was Luis Diaz. Like, for me, Luis Diaz didn't do anything that really stood out for me. That was like, he kept going with the ball. And as you mentioned, it kind of reminded me, when he said he always goes infield, he goes right infield with that ball. That always gets to me is the fact that when he does that infield ball and wants to run with it, who's he running into? Darwin Núñez, because that's Darwin Núñez is part of that pitch. And as you say, then Núñez is going to move further right, which then goes on and then affects where Mo Salah's positioning is where he is on the pitch. And those 3 places there, Dominic Szoboszlai is also, with the way that we're inverting with Trent, is also coming into Mo Salah's part of the pitch as well. As we know that there's now going to be too many players trying to operate in too small of a space. I know that we're trying to put Trent into this inverted role and put him into the midfield. And at times, I think that's great. And at times, it's something that we need to do to break down teams. But recently, the most impressive I've seen Liverpool was the second half against Crystal Palace. And if we'd had a first half like we had the second half with Joe Gomez going on the right overlap, which, by the way, I would probably prefer Trent doing that position. I'd rather Trent delivering that ball into the box than Joe Gomez. As much as I think Joe Gomez is more than capable of functionally putting a ball into the box, someone who is an absolute master of doing that is Trent Alexander-Arnold. And it just confuses me a little bit to not have a player of his quality doing those runs that Joe Gomez is doing. And that's obviously, I'm not Jurgen Klopp and I'm not the manager of Liverpool. There must be a good reason to it. But we can all see how much more positive we are when Gomez plays at right back and just does what we're all used to, which is that marauding right wing and flashing a ball across the box. Diogo Jota will be really important to us. He was fantastic for us before he was injured. He had some really poor games, and he does. He has games where you sit there and go, "You've been terrible," but somehow is still able to score a goal. Bournemouth being one of them. But then he was also capable of playing fantastically, and he had a couple of matches where he scored 1 or 2 goals, and he was brilliant throughout it. Jota will be really important to come back. Andy Robertson, as always, is something which we've sort of not had to worry about too much of not having Robertson, because Kostas has kind of really built himself up into a better position, and opposition haven't taken advantage of attacking him so far. So Robertson coming into the team will give us that natural balance and flow. But yeah, Diogo Jota for me coming into our team in the middle would be much better than what we're seeing at the moment. Nunes, I think, does need to come on as an impact sub again.
Now, Anthony, the midfield 3 today was Gravenberch, Endo, and Szoboszlai. 3, as American Dan mentioned earlier, like 3 players that are all under 20 appearances each, all learning where everyone runs. And I don't think anyone, I think Szoboszlai had probably his worst game for us, but I don't think anyone was, shall we say, horrendous, i.e. an Amrabat level of just getting beaten by everybody. The problem with a midfield like that is they have to connect defensively and they have to connect offensively and know where the runners are going to be and automatically play the balls. And I think there's Gravenberch's great at seemingly running forward with the ball, but then nobody knows where to run for him to get it. Szoboszlai's trying to do these runs, trying to play Trent in 3 different positions, right back, inverted right back, and defensive midfielder. I also think it's creating us more problems because people don't know where to go or people are not getting used to the runs and stuff. How would you fix this midfield? Would you go with the Trent, you just play right back and we'll learn the midfield 3 and you just overlap Salah? And we'll bring Gakpo in at 9, seen as false 9, seen as, and go back that way? Or do you try and spin it a different way?
I think you've always got to start off with Trent at right back just because he's produced there for so many years. I think highest assistant defender, Premier League history. But then
second to Robertson.
All right, well, he's catching up. But I don't know, man. It's just too confusing. I think with the midfield, we still need to give it time to understand who possesses what qualities X, Y, Z, because we're still not really seeing, I guess, McAllister in that central midfield spot. He's mainly been playing DM. Gravenberch, I don't think has had enough time. Although I thought he played quite well today. I thought going forward, at least he looked like a threat. And I'm not sure, man. It's a tough one because I think each match suits different midfield, I guess you could say as well. So when you're playing against these low blocks, I'd rather see Trent in midfield because he's the one who can break them down. But at the same time, I think a couple of them have to step up. Like we've said with Szoboszlai as well. I don't think he was that bad today. He was bad. He wasn't as bad as like you said. He wasn't horrific, but it's just I don't know. There seems to be a complete disjoint from the defense to the attack as well. Like we don't know what the midfielders are doing. They don't know what the forwards are doing. They don't know where to run, and it's just a bit confusing. We don't really know what we're going to watch when we turn on the TV to watch Liverpool. But I don't know. For a 60 million player, obviously I've got to step up because these are the matches where we need him. And
I get that, but there's the muscle memory part of it all, isn't it? Just knowing where someone's going to be and being able to hit it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, and also I just think there's a degree of the fact that, if you watch that first 15 to 20 minutes and you watch a Liverpool playing, they're just all running vertical very much. It's very like new people come on a team. Everyone looks at each other, oh, we're way better than this team. We're going to run at them and try and score. And I think there was a degree of that lack of maturity, that game intelligence. And that's just because they haven't played with each other that much. I think Szoboszlai at times is like trying to do too much at the same time. And then it's just like not there. I feel like, I know it's going to sound hypocrisy here. But this is what we missed really with Gini and Henderson in that team, is that you had that ability to just slow down, rotate, control the pace of a game, control the tempo of the game. And when you play against a team, in this case, like United, who's playing low block, you need to be able to just we decide what terms this game's going to be played on. And I think at times we're just not there yet, but that's just a maturity thing, and that's something that comes with time. I do think, however, the one player that Klopp should play more, but he just hasn't, I think just because to give Gravenberch time, is Jones. I think Curtis Jones, we miss him so much. Everyone will criticize because he doesn't have the creativity stats, but when Curtis Jones was playing, even in that Tottenham game, he was one of the better midfielders because what he would do is that he would overlap Diaz, he would give options, he would keep the ball and move it, and it wouldn't just be constant, just vertical attack, trying to score 3 or 4 goals, because he had that maturity to slow it down and say pick the right pass, know when to step it up to slow it down, and I think that's just what we're really missing at the moment. And that's, again, Anthony mentioned that disjointedness. I think that's part of that disjointedness is that we're going from like 0 to 50 in like 3.0 seconds, but we don't have the muscle memory, as you mentioned, James, of like doing 0 to 50 and scoring a goal. Like, this is not a Liverpool team that's played out 200 games together, know what to do. Like, well, we're seeing, this is very much like I've already mentioned, like a lot of really good players show up on a 5-a-side and say, we're just going to run vertical and just try to score.
Yeah,
Can I bring up? Actually, I agree with you at John's comment. Because beginning of the season, I thought everyone was quite happy with the team. Szoboszlai looked really good. McAllister looked good as well, and Jones was a standout as well. Just because it looked really balanced, I'd say as well. And towards the back end of last season, Jones was on a decent scoring streak, or at least he was playing well in the midfield. And Henderson, Fabinho, whoever else was playing in midfield, didn't even score or assist all season. And then Jones came in and he was providing what we couldn't do. But like we've said, I think I'm sorry if I'm being a bit pessimistic. I'm not in panic mode. It's just for this particular match, it's frustrating losing to United, or drawing at least. Feels like a loss just because it's at Anfield. But I feel like Jones is probably the best option going forward in the short term. But when Thiago's back, I think we're going to see a real difference.
Jones does really well, and I do agree. I think he does well in terms of transitioning to a defensive mode and creating a double defensive midfielder, and then when Liverpool are attacking, he transitions quite nicely into the attacking, and all he does is recycle and keep the game flowing and stuff like that. He doesn't try and do anything outrageous. He like a couple of years ago, all he would ever try and do is come in off the left and try and whip the ball into the top corner on the other side, and now he's just like, well, I'll just rotate. Non-American Dan, the best chance we had today was probably, though, Trent coming late in midfield, where he came late onto the ball, went to hit it in the bottom corner, and Arna didn't move. And the only reason that didn't go in is because he's got these new bloody Predator boots, and he got that much curl on the thing. It just curled past the post because it was going straight in the bottom corner until that last-minute curl came on it. So maybe midfield is a good position for Trent in these low block type teams where he can just stand back and orchestrate.
You see, actually, just as having this conversation and being able to decompress some of the disappointments of that game, because as Anthony rightly says, it does feel like a lot, especially against the Manchester United team. We lost 3-0 against Bournemouth last time out. We got played up apart midweek. We've rested a lot of our players, but the actual stats of that match actually tell me something. To be totally honest with you, that we got 35 shots, 8 of them on target, but the quality of them was really poor. Like, I'm not a big supporter of XG. I actually don't really think it means anything. I think it's quite irrelevant. But what we were lacking in that game is something that we used to do, was just being patient. Just passing that ball and passing it to the left, passing it to the right, and just keep opening and looking for space, and looking for quality balls through. I'd much rather us had taken 17 good quality shots than 35 of what I just saw today. And I think that would have come from if we were just a little bit more calm, a little bit more patient, and were capable of saying, right, you're going to sit in for 90 minutes and you're happy with a 0-0, which is what you're going to expect. Instead, we looked rushed, we looked panicked, like we had to always, it's great to be on the front foot and being aggressive and like trying to put a team under pressure. That's fantastic. But there's right times to do it, and we were doing it a lot of the time at the wrong time. And that moment that you just mentioned there, James, which probably was our best possible chance, was from a period of that, from a period of us being a little bit more patient, finding that space and finding a moment to take a good quality shot. If Trent had another opportunity of taking another one of those shots, my money's on it, probably would have gone in. He'd have had that chance to be able to score that one today. And that's what I want to take from this now. I want to try and see is to say, It's not the end of the season for us. It's not the end of what we're doing. We have a lot of players coming back in, and January's around the corner. Perhaps we'll buy somebody. We always seem to buy somebody in January. We're just not very loud. It just depends on who we go out there and sign and what we actually need to kind of add to this team right now, because there's a lot of development going on in that team. We can't bring somebody in who's a sticking plaster for today and affect the development of a player who's going to be our future. So that's my thing. I don't know who will sign, but I hope that we do, because I think we still need someone with a little bit more knowledge than a lot of the young boys that we've got on this team. We need someone like you just said, which was a Jordan Henderson. Dan, you said the right thing. Maybe somebody who has a little bit more kind of professionalism and like, right, this is what we need to do. Because there was a lot of young lads on that pitch today who all wanted to impress, and it didn't quite work.
I think Dan loves you, Anthony.
Thank you, Dan.
One thing I do think we need to have a collective rant about, because this is the main thing that's annoyed me today, is we have two of the best aerial presences in the Premier League in Konate and Van Dijk. And Gakpo is also superb in the air. We have two of the best deliverers of a dead ball in the Premier League in Trent and Szoboszlai. And we had a million shit corners. Like,
it's just like that sometimes. It's just like that sometimes.
What's going on? Because that was not a big United team. Like, they were not big in defence. We won the ball, but we were like running backwards and heading it and flicking it in the air and flicking it in the air where even Onana could catch the ball, which just tells you how much pace we took off the ball with our head. What's going on with these set pieces?
Well, okay, so I know other Dan doesn't like stats, so I'm going to be stats Dan, not just because I wear glasses.
You're American Dan. We've dealt with this.
Yes, I know I'm American Dan. American Dan here. Well, first of all, I think statistically, on a good set piece team scores a dead ball or a set piece one every 30 tries. So that's a corner and a free kick. So statistically, I think that works out because we didn't get 30, so we didn't get our 1 in 30. They were just bad deliveries. Like Szoboszlai's kicking today was just off. I thought Trent was a little bit off at times. Even that goal he should score. Like, I think, again, he's trying to be too precise instead of like, let me just get my foot on it. Everyone's trying. I think everyone got into a mood of, let me be as precise as possible. Let me hit the man and not the area. And that's what they just kept doing, hit the man and not the area. I think a good example of that is the one time they actually aimed for an area was when Gakpo got that header on it, which he probably should do better for. But again, I think everything was just, the touch was just that 3% off on it. And the thing about corners and free kicks is that if it's 3% off, that 3% is, magnitudes in terms of like, does this go in or it doesn't. I think it also helps. I think, again, I keep repeating this, but I think it hurts that we haven't had a good left foot set piece taker since Andy Robertson. I think Costas' delivery is pretty decent. But
do you think we're missing Andy Robertson, Dan?
Yes, like the fourth time I've said it. Yes. I know it's so funny. I keep saying this, but because I have to stick up for Andy Robertson because the group chat at one point was acting like Robertson was like the worst defending left back in history. And I'm like, what has happened to the world that people?
You think we're in the relegation zone if you looked at our group chat, honestly.
I listen. We are in the relegation zone at this point. Second in the Premier League, 1 point off. Might as well be like 20th. We might as well swap places with Everton at this point. Give us a 20-point deduction. We need to grind more. Get that Dyche mentality. It's like, I'll take 20-point deductions. That way we just win more games. It's just one of those things. And I also think that, I think Konate and Van Dijk also just didn't have their best game in the box. They were great defending, but just attacking set pieces. I think were just, again, bad decision-making, bad technique. Again, it's football. That just happens sometimes. Like, sometimes everything you kick goes in. Sometimes everything you kick might as well just pack it in and just be like, you know what, guys, I'm not in it today. Take me off Jurgen. You get in.
It's the outswinging corner that I'm not a big fan of, to be totally honest. Those ones that can kind of just, especially a goalkeeper like Onana, who we already saw, that one time he tried to catch the ball and someone threw it out of his own hands. If the ball is in quick for him, why can't we do that? I remember seeing Szoboszlai in pre-season was taking our right-hand side corners. And then he seems to stop doing them for a long while. It might just be to do tactically, positionally, and defensive transitions that he can't just, be in two places at once. And that's fine. But you want to see all being fizzed into that 6-yard box. And
outside of the foot, can't they? They're not bad technical players.
No. I have a theory. I think the reason why is because they're trying to recreate the Villa situation, where Soboslai is always on the opposite side to kick the ball and go across. That's why they do those outswinging corners, because the idea is like you either get a second ball across goal or it drops to Soboslai and he gets to slice it or it gets to put it back in. Or Trent, because there's a few times where it drops for opposite play and they're trying to fizz it back in. But I just think that's a bad set. I just think we haven't been good at set pieces this year, and I think it's because they've tried way too much to try and like do this weird like crisscross pattern where it's like we're getting these second, third shots deflected. I think there's a reason why someone in the stats department is probably looking at it saying like, hey, this is where we can get our advantage at. But I just don't think it's working right now with this team because again, like all the things we've mentioned, sloppiness, not new team, doesn't have that maturity yet. I think it's great to do that once in a while, but I think we're really overdoing it right now.
We have a team of enormous lads, don't we? And as you say, we should be asking questions of them, like putting that ball in that all they have to do is direct it at goal. You know, we didn't need the power from the header. The power should be coming from the corner. You know, you can put a lot of power through a ball by kicking it than you can by heading it. And if we can put whip into that box with a player like Trent or Soboslai, whoever can send that inside, then I think we could be asking a lot more questions. And as you say, I never got excited from one of our corners after about.
Well, there was the Trent in open play, which went straight to Nunes' head, which I'm sure sent Anthony into a thing because he should have scored that. That was perfectly onto his head. And the one towards the end of the game, which went straight, Gakpo was free. And he just boomed it over. Again, that should have been one on target. And then there was the Van Dijk one, which Onana made it out to be the greatest save of all time, but was just like there. So there's three that we probably should have done a lot better with. Now, one player I think we missed today, and it's slightly different to Dan's. And if anyone's not sure what Dan's on about, he thinks we miss Andy Robertson. You might have missed it. He was very subtly mentioned it a few times. Interestingly for me was Joel Matip. I think in situations where teams play a low block, the fact that he's prepared to just drive at the opposition's box and run with the ball, which isn't Konate's natural. Look, Konate did it once and all chaos went loose. But that's what Matip does. He runs forward with the ball, lays it off, takes it past 2 or 3, looks like Bambi on ice. But that's what we missed, I think, because there wasn't that offensive threat for me. So I do think, when we start talking about Liverpool in January and we start thinking about what we're going to need, yes, everyone's talking about a defensive midfielder, and we'll get to Endo and what we thought of Endo today, because I see Dan's put it in the chat. Not you, Dan. Not American Dan. Not a non-American Dan, but Big Boss Dan has put it in chat. We'll call him that one. So again, we're missing that sort of midfielder that can drive forward, like the John Stones role and stuff like that, like what Matip was playing. In terms of what else you're seeing that we need to change moving forward, for the match coming up against Arsenal, Anthony, for you, what is it you're wanting to see? Is it Nunes out and Gakpo in?
Actually, I think it'll probably be too soon for Jota, but I mean, we've got West Ham first, to be fair, in the quarterfinal. I think that's a big match. Fairly easy route to the final, dare I say, or it should be a comfortable win for us, I think, that tournament. But I'd say, Nunes. But then again, I don't know with Nunes because he tends to do well in those weird sort of matches. But then I've been saying that for the past 10 matches. Like I said it against United, and it was just a bit non-existent today, I guess. But I'd like to see Gakpo. I thought he did really well last season, at least towards the end of it. Him in the centre forward role, Diaz. I think Diaz is getting really harshly criticised. It feels like as soon as he loses the ball, or if he doesn't go down the left once, he's the worst player in the world apparently. But it's like he has come back from an injury. He still needs time to adjust. He's playing with like a really high pace, isn't it? And I think that there's an expectation that he was going to come in and replace Mane. He's never going to replace Mane because Mane is one of the best forwards in Premier League history. Diaz is not that player. He's no disrespect to him, of course, but he's not going to reach those levels. But you're going to get Diaz cutting in, and I think he's been too harshly criticised. People saying he had bad performance today, I think is completely off the mark. But he's got to start left wing, Gakpo up top, and then Salah right wing. I think just Nunes needs to have some time at the team and come on as a sort of impact sub, I guess you could say. But midfield, there's not a lot you can change because Gravenberch got injured as well, didn't he? So
no, I think he went straight to the bench. I think it could have just been like cramp or tiredness because he went straight to the bench and he was just.
You got Jones, you got Elliott.
Jones, actually, yeah, good point. I think Elliott will start against West Ham though. Maybe Jones. So I can't imagine Klopp's going to start them both at once. But Elliott looks way better off coming on as a sub. And from defence, you know what? I actually agree with your point about Matip. Going forward, he's way better against low blocks. But at the same time, I think the draw side to having Matip in there instead of Konate is Konate can break up the counter attacks like instantly. Whereas with Matip, he can do it, but I've seen him give away fouls in needless positions, and so a lot of the time they will get past him. Not a lot of the time, but I'd see him get past Matip more times than I'd see Konate, where he's got that physical presence. Like Højlund was non-existent. He's worse than Nunes. Thank goodness he's not a Liverpool player. No, 0 goals in 15 Premier League matches, something like that. But
13. This will be his 13th without a goal.
He's awful player. Like all United fans always see him. He just needs the chances, man. He's not getting the proper balls. He had a 1-on-1 and he completely bottled it straight at Alisson. Good save, obviously, from Alisson.
Everyone bottles it against Alisson.
Yeah. Good point. But yeah, I'd like to see Gakpo up top, Diaz left wing, Salah right wing, and midfield, I guess Curtis Jones, Szoboszlai and Endo in that midfield three.
I think Anthony makes a really good point about Luis Diaz, non-American, Dan, because he's having to come in. So if you play Gakpo, then Diaz can make the runs in behind. He can come in field, can't he? And he can try and get in behind and actually make an impact and drive at the defence. At the moment, because Nunes is the one doing the running into the space, Diaz is coming in midfield almost to try and create the space. And really, it'd be good to see Diaz just running at goal, because when he was at his, about a season and a half ago, when he was just sprinting at goal with Salah also sprinting at goal, it was just absolute chaos. So when we were going for the quadruple, wasn't it? When we brought him in January, it was just them running at it. And Gakpo's clever enough to be late into the box and score goals. I think there's for me, there's something in that formation. I'm a massive fan of Nunes, but I don't think he's helping the front three attack at this moment in time. I think he needs to learn the positions and where he's going to score from and where everyone else is. What do you think?
I mean, I'm quite objective when it comes to it. I'll say it as I say it. There's a lot of confirmation bias when it comes to it. People form an opinion of a certain player and will only look for the bad in certain players. Nunes is a victim of that. He's a victim of it from outside of our club, because everyone focuses on the things that he misses, and then will always then point out the things he doesn't do well. What I will also say is a confirmation bias when it comes to players who they do like Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz hit the ground running when he joined Liverpool. It's fantastic. So a lot of people only ever form the opinion that he's fantastic. He started this season brilliantly. He was really good, and we thought, wow, here we go. He's now adding goals to his game, which was kind of being sort of thrown at him that he doesn't quite do that. He was doing a lot of running, but there was no delivery. Today, there wasn't again that. He was against Crystal Palace as well. I actually mentioned in our group chat, I said that it's an observation that I don't feel like he wants to front a player up. He didn't do it against Sheffield. He didn't want to take these runs on. Now, what could happen is something that we did with Mane. Would it be possible we can do? How good was Diaz? I know he was offside, but his finish was fantastic against Crystal Palace when he played in that forward position. He is a finisher and he has got really good composure. There would be an opportunity potentially to see whether or not Diaz would actually favour going in the middle, and Gakpo could, or Nunes could both play on the left-hand side, which they've both done for Benfica and for PSV. That's actually a position that they played for in the past. Luis Diaz, obviously after the knee injury, and obviously what's happened with his dad and his parents and whatnot has happened, absolutely afford that kind of that leeway as it is. And it's not to be like, oh, he has been awful. There was not much today, and there hasn't been very much in the past couple of games that I can look back on and say that was a great game from a player who I know is capable of being brilliant, who has got the capability of being a fantastic footballer and can really influence matches. I would say that potentially what we could do is maybe try that, even if it's only for like half a match, 30 minutes of a game, is to see how that fits in there, to see if we can try and generate that new sort of feel. Because at the moment, like we've all just mentioned, there's a disjoint in that front three playing in the position we're playing. So it wouldn't do us any harm to say, well, why don't you swap positions? Why don't you play there in that middle? And just see what comes about from it. See if anything positive comes from it. See if we can learn anything and see whether or not that gives. Because Cody Akpo is ducked to water playing on the left wing. That's what he's always done. The only person we'd be asking to quite a lot of was Luis Diaz. But Luis Diaz was more central when he played for Porto than he is playing for us, because we want him to be Mane. But with them, more of an inside forward attacking on from the left, going into the centre of the. That's probably why he does a lot of that. So, yeah, I think that we should be looking to maybe try and do that against West Ham. For West Ham, this is their biggest game of the season, because there's a really good opportunity so far for them to have a chance of going to Wembley, especially after last year winning the Europa Conference League. So they'll play a full-strength team. It's going to be a really big match for them.
American Dan, Endo, number 6, seems to be building into the role quite comfortably now. Seems to be passing the ball to players at pace. Still needs a little bit too long on the ball for me at times, so still gets caught out occasionally, but he seems to be moulding into a decent backup 6 to me, not necessarily a Premier League winning 6.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I don't feel like the Premier League title is going to weigh on whether or not Wataru Endo is an amazing 6. It's always going to come down to the fact that can we just score the goals that we need to score? I think it's going to be more down to our forwards and everybody else than it is on to that just whoever's going to be playing the 6. I think Wataru Endo's like most been fine. I think at times he's good. I think the problem with Wataru Endo is he's a bit more a cultured footballer than maybe we probably need. Like he's just a little bit too good on the ball and maybe not too much of a doghouse. He's more Thiago than he is Paulinho, for an example, in many ways. Like he's not going to go around and like break up play a lot. He's not N'Golo Kante. He's more of a Kovacic, I guess, if you want to like have a good Chelsea comparison. I think he's fine. I think he's closest thing we have to a Thiago in the team right now than maybe Alexis McAllister, but I think both him and McAllister do just take too long on the ball. Like they're okay on the half turn. They can spin with the ball. They can spin and pass it pretty easily. But again, it's just not playing with each other, not used to playing in the system. Like that slowness really just comes down to the fact that you need to be coached out of that. Like I remember when we first got Thiago, like that was one of the biggest problems we had, is the fact that he would just slow down the ball and like he wouldn't move it as fast. And then the second year, the 21-22 year, the quad chase year is when you saw the best of Thiago, like passing and moving very quickly, playing in a double pivot with Fabinho. So, I mean, I think Wataru Endo is like perfectly fine midfielder. I think the best of Endo will come out when we have a more balanced midfield. Again, a Curtis Jones, a Bajcetic, a Thiago, in form, Soboslai, McAllister. Again, I think there's just other things. There's other things that Klopp and Linders and the coaching staff can try or slightly tweak, like you mentioned with putting Gakpo in the left wing, playing Diaz in the middle, or having Nunez play in the middle, Gakpo in the left wing, and just have it be a more fluid front three, kind of a throwback to the 17-18 team. But I think, but again, I think Dad mentioned, and I thought it was a Joe Fagan quote, but I guess the Bob Paisley quote. We're not top of the league anymore, but top of the league, near the top of the league with all these problems, there's still like a lot of we know where our baseline is. The intensity is there, the effort is there, the quality is there. It's just getting that out on a more consistent basis. It's just now the next step for this team, and I think we're in a good position to do that. Again, it all starts next Sunday against Arsenal's our next Premier League game. I don't have the schedule in front of me, so someone can double check that on me in the stat. And in the chat.
I think you're right. And I think just to sort of wrap it all up, today wasn't a great day for things connecting together, but this is a new team, new connections, new automatic like knowing automatically where someone's going to be. That telekinesis of the front three that Liverpool had was done in hard work on the training ground. So if you think we finished 5th last season, we rebuilt our entire midfield, started again, and before we've even fixed it properly, because it's not fixed yet, because you've not had a season on the training ground working together, we're still in the title conversation. There are many things to be positive about as Liverpool fans. We've just got a few problems that we've got to solve, and Anthony has to. Anthony's line with Nunes is getting very close to breaking point. And American Dan really wants Robertson back. I don't know if you picked up on it, but he thinks we're really missing Robertson. This has been LFC Transfer Room. Thank you very much to Anthony, non-American Dan, and American Dan. If you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you have an idea as to how you want Liverpool to sort of get this system working more in future, put it in the chat. We can always give it to the team and they can do a video deep diving into some of your ideas and suggestions on how we can improve moving into the second half of the season or the busy Christmas period. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care.